What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video slash tutorial slash devlog of the game that I'm producing. Um, that still doesn't have a name. So in this video, it's gonna be a simple thing uh, that I did for the project. I've been mostly creating unit tests and testing in general for most of the features that I've already developed so far. So I haven't been able to actually progress as much on the actual functions of the game. But now that everything's up to date, probably I'll be able to do more with it. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to create like a potion for the game itself, so like with the gameplay ability system. So also, I've set it up this auto equip if I don't have any items of that type equipped. So if I pick up the shield, for example, as you can see, it's auto equipped. I figured out it was quite annoying actually to manually equip everything. But if I pick it up like a shoulder pad, as you can see now, shoulder pad is equipped. The same goes for the clothing. So now I pick it up a clothing, it's equipped. But now if I pick it like a different shoulder pad, it's not going to auto-equip because I have already one equipped. So if I pick it up, yep, as you can see, nothing happens. Uh, so I've mocked in blueprints like a effect to apply it myself into my player to auto damage itself if I press a button, which in that case it's R. So if I press R, it gets my strength and then it applies this damage to my character. This is just for testing. And if I press the Q right now, because I picked up a potion, as you can see, if I press Q, it's going to drink a potion. It's going to spawn up a couple particles. And that should be about it. So, and now I don't have any potions left, so shouldn't drink anything. So yeah, that's a pretty simple stuff that I'm going to show how to do it. Also, I'm going to show how to do it like this auto equip, how I did it, and also how to do this trail with the weapon, which should be pretty simple, straightforward as well to do it. As you can see now that there is like this trail effect into the weapon. So let's go to the simple first, which is the trail. So basically what I did, I opened up the, let me just open up the character. Where is it? Blueprint, characters, playable. There we go. There's my player character. So basically what I did, I just open up any montage. Oh, let me just actually grab the skills. Let me just open the melee attack like this here. So here into the melee attack, I have this montage for that's gonna sort in like once I want the sword is gonna sort the montage to play based on that function that I created in C++. So basically, on the montage itself to create that trail, as you can see now, there is like this small trail over here. So basically, what I did is just create like a notify track. I actually can delete this one. I don't think I need that one. That one was just a test. And at the moment I want to trail to start and end, on that sense, I would like to start the trail here, and then whenever he finished the attack. So in that sense, I just click with the right button, add a notify state, and then I clicked on trail. Um, and then I just, position at the proper timing. And inside the trail itself, I need to specify where the trail is going to start and when it's going to end into the socket itself. So I have my weapon socket here, which is basically where my weapon is stored. And I need to specify where that trail is going to end, which is basically the end of the weapon. If I leave it like only at weapon 1, I'm going to have like a pretty small trail, like only on the hand itself. Let me just actually show that. So let me just put like weapon 1 and weapon 1 as the beginning and end. So if I play now, let me just play it. It's not even it's not even possible to see, but because there is no trail, because the thing is not moving, it's just its socket itself. It's just like a small trail inside of the socket, which is not visible right now. So you need to specify two things. You need to create two sockets. Oops, let me just find the end trail socket. So the first socket which I created is, already the weapon, which is basically attached to the hand of the character, which is pretty simple. And the end trail, it's another socket into the same bone. But the difference is it goes right at the end of the weapon itself. So let's suppose you want to create like a trail of a punch. Probably you will need to grab the forearm, the lower arm, and then the hand. That would be the start and end of your trail. But in my case, I want the trail to go from the beginning of the weapon to the end of the weapon. So beginning and the end. And once you do that, you need to specify a particle to that. I downloaded a particle from the Advanced Magic FX 12, which is something that I already had, but given by Unreal Engine a couple, years ago or so. And this right now is still not entirely supported through the Niagara system, which is basically like just a simple particle, like just material, and the material itself, if you open up that, it's like a bunch of things. But you need to create like a material with the effect that you want to have it. And once you have it, the particle for the trail, that's going to be spawned there if you specify the particle. So it's pretty simple. You just need to create like a proper trail particle. There's hundreds of tutorials around the internet. I'm not gonna do it. I just found a asset pack into the engine, the Epic launcher, and it was free. I just downloaded and I use it. So yeah. So that's how I did the trail. And you would need to do that the same thing for all of your montages. So all of the montages have the same thing. So as you can see now, they all have the same thing and they all start at the same point. They all have the same particle, etc. So yeah, that's how I did the trail. Uh, the second one, which is also simpler to do, is the auto equip thing. So as you remember, I had a function inside of here somewhere. Let me just found. Oh, there we go. Equip weapon. Oh, pick up closest item. Sorry. So I have a function to equip things in the past, and I have this function called pick up closest item. So what I was doing in the past is I picked the item that would be stored in my inventory, and then if I wanted to, I would open my inventory and equip the whole thing for it, like manually, and it would call this function equip item. Um, so instead of that, calling equip item that way, instead of my pick up closest item, when I was about to pick up an item and destroy it, before destroying it, I would actually check if there is an active item of that type already equipped into my inventory. And if there isn't, then I would equip that item right away. That's about what I was gonna do. And this function has active item is pretty simple as well. So what's basically doing is just loading the assets that it has and it's checking if there is already an asset. For example, if it's a clothing item, it needs to check if there is an asset inside of it that is active. But not only that, they need to check if that asset that is active is also of the same type of clothing. Otherwise, if I equip one clothing, it would never equip any other clothing automatically. So that's an extra check that I would have to do. Uh, and if there is, just going to return true because there is an item. Otherwise, it's just going to return false by the end of it. Sorry, by the end of it. And for the other types, which is basically clothing and the weapons and death weapons and etc., it would basically do the same thing but different type of assets. It's going to be loaded and different types of inventory is going to be checked. But basically, it's checking if there is an active weapon, well, return true. Otherwise, just return false, and that should be about it. Um, yeah, that should be pretty simple stuff, and that's how I did the auto equip. So after destroying the actor itself, this is a craft item that I don't equip craft items, but I just grab like a potion, for example. After destroying the actor, I'm gonna check. Oh, nope, not this one. Sorry, I'm still in the craft. So let me just go back to clothing, for example. So after destroy the actor, I just check if there is already one type of clothing active, and if there isn't, just equip that clothing right away. So that's how I did the auto equip. Uh, Now, the potion itself, which is also simple stuff, I had to create a particle. On that sense, I'm not really good at creating particles. It's not my thing, my thing is programming. I'm not an artist, so basically what I did, I just created a Niagara particle, two at least, emitter. So I went to effects, Niagara emitter, I created two. One is the cone, and the other is the hearts that's popping up. And I created a material called hearts, which is basically like a texture like a PNG texture of a heart icon, like a PNG. And what I did basically is I grabbed whatever the default parameters were for whenever you create like an emitter. Let me just go back to the folder. whenever you create an emitter, it's gonna have a default. If you click here, it's gonna have like a default material. Basically, what I did is just copy and paste whatever the nodes were, and I just added my texture on top of it. I know it's pretty lazy, but I'm not a really good uh, artist anyway. So, and then I just grabbed the texture, multiply by whatever was being set to the emissive, and oops, and I grab the alpha channel, which is basically just want to display the hearts, not the background of it. So as you can see, if I put that into a better shaped thing to see, the alpha would be multiplied by whatever alpha was being set, which I think is particle color or something like that. I'm not really sure what's going on. And then I set it up as well, the output to be the same as the default material that would be right here. So I just went over to whatever was set there and set equally here. That's basically what I did. And into each one of the rejects effects, so I created an emitter, and I think the emitter was of this. If you go to emitter, new emitter, it was from this fountain uh, template here. And inside of the fountain, I went deleting a bunch of stuffs, and I just basically select like a cylinder location. So I specify a cylinder location because I want to spawn around my character, and to get the idea why I put this cylinder at 100, basically I went to a task map where is my character is already placed in. Just open like a task map, dev tests. It could be this one. So as you can see, there's a character here, and if I place that into the top view, and I press the middle mouse button, the scroll button, and press it and scroll down, I figured that I want a circle or a cone that would have this area around my character. So from this 100, it would be like a circle around my character. That's basically the idea of that 100 over there. So the height is basically how taller it's going to be, and the velocity is basically spawning the things upwards. That's basically what I'm doing on the z-axis here. Everything is 0 0 because I want only to spawn to the up direction, and the angle is minus 45 because I figured that if you put 45, it's going to spawn below, like, I want this because it's a cone. I want the cone inverted. So minus 45 in a regular cone is going to be downwards. So I want upwards, so I inverted the cone that way. Um, and initialize particle, I play around a little bit with this as well. So I specify like a default size. I unset the rotation because I don't want the hearts to be rotating. And yeah, there's other things that I played around here as well. And on spawn rate, I put that as a 10 because, there's just the hearts on that. The emitter state, the duration, etc. I mean, I haven't played around with this one actually. But the scale color is where I play around the most, which is basically I set it up this to be RGB. So I wanted a green, so 0, 0, green 3. If I put that, even stronger, like a 10, you see that it's going to be shining. But since we're going to have Unreal 5 using global illumination, I was afraid that this would be too shiny once I started using Lumen into future projects once I update to Unreal 5. The soul force and velocity is a requirement because I added the velocity, so I had to add this soul force and velocity. I haven't played anything. It's just like complaining. Once I add this, it was like it needs to have this, and I add this here. Gravity force is basically what's pushing the hearts down after they went up. So as you can see, they went up and then they go down a little bit. The stronger this is, the z-axis here is, again, I'm pushing upwards, so z-axis is the one that I want to play it with. If I put like minus 200, you see that barely goes up, and it goes down a lot more before actually getting destroyed, which is not what I wanted. I want that to be above the character's head, so I allow it to went up a little bit by applying less gravity force into those particles. And this one I don't think I need it actually. I can actually delete this one. There's no need for it. Oh, there is a need for it. Sorry. I understood. Oops. So if I delete this one, actually I think that it was also automatically added by this. As you can see, it's complaining that it requires surface force and velocity. So I had to add another one of those, and I haven't changed anything on it. But let me just go back to minus 100 because I don't want to blow up my particle. So there we go. So I was happy with this, but I still need a circle around my character. So I went ahead and I created as well another. Let me just go back to the perspective one, and let me just open again the depth tests. Let me just open again the dev test. Don't save it. Don't need to save anything. Um, so I went ahead and into my Regen FX. Let me just go back to the particle itself. Where is it? Uh, Particles. Where's the particles folder? There we go. Regen FX. So that's the hearts. The cone itself is just a cylinder, as you can see. So there isn't much in this one. So this is the default material that I was talking about. So basically what I did is I open it up, copy all over, like everything this way. And to copy it over in that test material, I was going, checking whatever that is and setting it the same way into the other material. So this is the default material that comes with like any default particle. So it deleted everything basically. It just added the cylinder location, and the cylinder location has the same radius as I specified before. And I also specified the surface only as well. And I removed these use ends caps in surface because otherwise it would be spawning this way, which is not what I wanted. I wanted just the circle. Um, and I think that was pretty much about it. I also specified the offset to be 000 because it was not working to the proper location if it didn't set that way. And the particle state, no, I think that was the only thing that I set it. So yeah, basically this particle is a pretty simple one. So I just remove everything, basically play around with the spawn rate to be 5,000. Otherwise, if I leave it like as a 10, you see that it's gonna be spawning on the radius that I wanted, but it's just I need more particles to form a circle basically. Um, and the cylinder location, I haven't played around with that. I just set the radius to be the same. The scale color, I did the same color as the previous particle, and the sprite render, I haven't played around with this actually. So it just removed basically everything and just play around the cylinder location and the spawn rate basically. Uh, so yeah, that's the simplest particle I could come around to build this circle around here, which was okay in my sense. And then once I did that, I just created. Oh gosh, dang it! Let me just go back to the folder particle. There we go. So once I did that, I just went to the hearts, create a Niagara system, and that's my system over here. And basically what I did was, it was like only with this one, and then I went back and added a different emitter for the parents, and then I added my cone here. And that was pretty much about it, how to create this particle over here. Okay, so simple stuff. But how did I actually create the potion itself? So the potion itself was pretty much created by using the gameplay ability system, which it was a lot simpler than I thought to create it. The hardest part, believe it or not, was creating a particle because again, I'm not an artist, and even though it's not okay, still. So if I play around and pick up a potion, I don't like it that if I move it, my circle moves around with me. Like I like the hearts moving around, but not the circle. I would like the circle to be still, but that would change, but probably with the time. But anyways, but the potion itself was pretty simple to create. So I went back, and as if you want to see how I create the whole gameplay ability system, there's a video in the description below or in the card at the top of the video if I remember how to put it. Uh, but basically, what I did then, I went to the character itself, playable, and before I already created this melee attack ability, which is basically that ability to punch or to give simple sword attacks, swing the sword, etc. So I created another gameplay ability called Potion. So basically what I did in that sense is, before creating the abilities, I went for the proper dependency systems. So in order for me to create uh, a potion effect, I would like that particle to be spawned, so I create a particle. but where that particle would be spawned into a gameplay ability system, that would be inside of a queue. So I went ahead and created a gameplay queue called Regen. And that gameplay queue is using my custom gameplay queue. So gas queue with timer, which is basically this gameplay queue notify actors, but there's a couple functions inside of it, I think. So basically what I did then, I created a gameplay queue with timer. So because if I create that instant one, this instant over here, it would be spawn a particle and die right away, which is not what I want. I want to see the particle, for a couple seconds. So I create this with timer, which is an actor. And if I open that one into my C++ code as well, let me just open that one up. Let me just open the components, gameplay ability system, queue with timer. The only thing that is inside of that different from the regular one is that I already set my parameters like auto destroy and remove, auto attach to owner, and also unique instance per instigator. So if you want to do that onto the blueprint level, you could also automatically just check those boxes: auto destroy on remove, auto attach to owner, and unique instance per instigator. Basically, that's what I did. And then under the tag one, I would need to remember that tag and match exactly on the gameplay effect that I would need to create in the future. So I basically created a new gameplay queue called Regeneration, and that was about it. Also, I added a Niagara particle over here, and the gameplay queue basically has a Niagara particle system in it, which is basically that cone system that I just created down there. So that's how I set it up. Okay, now I have the gameplay queue, I have the tag to match later on the effect, so I need the effect that's going to call that gameplay queue directly. So if I go back to the folder, I have the gameplay queue, now I need the effect that is going to trigger that queue. So I went back and create a gameplay effect for the Regeneration Potion, which is basically also a blueprint class that I customized called gas effect. I customized that one. And inside of that effect, basically what I did, you can open the blueprint, but I barely use that one. But if you open the blueprint editor, it's going to show that way, but I don't use usually here. So I went ahead and into the display, I matched the tag that is going to trigger. So once that effect it's being hit on, what's going to do is going to display whatever has that same tag here, which in that sense is my gameplay queue. So it's going to spawn that particle over there. But what that effect is going to do specifically is it's going to have a duration of 4 seconds. So during 4 seconds, what's going to do? It's going to change the attribute health by adding a 5. So during 4 seconds, it's going to add 5. So it's going to add 20 of health. And I added also this tag here called Health Regeneration, so I can filter out later on into C++ code if a gameplay effect has a specific tag, do something, or do some sort of effect into the attributes itself. But I'll explain that later. So, okay, now I have my attribute already set it up. Also, during the period, I set it up this for each 1.1 second, it's going to trigger that 5 change, that 5 modifier change into my health. Why 1.1? Because as soon as this starts, it's gonna also like automatically add this 5. So if I leave it at 1, this event would be triggered actually 5 times instead of 4 times, because it's gonna, remember, it's gonna be at 0.000, it's gonna be triggered the first time, so 5, and then after 1 second it's gonna trigger again 10, and then after 2 seconds 15, 20, and then 25 would be my 4 seconds. So I specified that to 1.1, so it never actually triggers more than 4 times. Okay, so what I did into the C++ code, on the other hand, on that effect, I had to customize that as well. Oh, it was not on the effect, sorry. So I just specified the instant effect and null period. It was actually on the ability itself. Okay, so now that I have both cues, which is the visual effect, and the background, which is the effect itself, what's going to do to my character, once I trigger this, I need the ability. So what I basically did, I went ahead then and created the potion ability called Regen Potion. And that Regen Potion has an ability montage, and again, that's also a customized gameplay ability that I created in C++. So gas ability, oops, where's the gas gameplay ability? That's the class that I specified. So what that does is I specify my montage that is going to be playing, and under the montage I have this, oops, pause. So I have this notify that once I get to this point, I want to trigger that effect. That's why I added this regeneration effect. So this notify called BPAN regeneration. So that's what is up into that montage. Remember, that's pretty important. The effect itself, I haven't specified that because that's going to be grabbed dynamically based on whatever I have in my inventory. So I didn't need to specify that. And remember, this is also like custom things that I put in C++. What's the input I'm going to use? I created an input called Potion, and I create that by basically going to Editor, Project Settings, Inputs. I create this not access the action Potion there, and those are the buttons that I need to press to trigger that thing. And inside of my gameplay ability, I specify like use potion. So into my code itself, and if you haven't saw that before, go back into the video that I specify how I create, like how I bind those things in C++. But basically what I did into my character was, let me just go back to the character. Where is that? Setup input. Yeah, there we go. Setup player input component. So whenever that's going on, this is specifying like whatever is inside of the input component variable here, bind that to my gameplay ability system. So if I have inside of this enum here matching, functions, if I have on this enum here values matching exactly the name of my, dang it, I always close it, matching exactly my name of my inputs here, which in that case is sponge and potion. So it's going to look for there, and it's going to bind the integer input that corresponds to whatever is set down here. So, and that's only done once, so it's going to do that for all input components that are available into that enum, which is automatically pretty cool to do because I don't have to do that manually anymore, ever. Um, so yeah, basically that's how I did it. And also I need to give the ability, so I need to grant abilities. So whenever I give the ability onto the begin play to the melee attack, I also gave the ability potion ability, which I also need to specify into my player character that this is a default ability that he has. So let me just go back to, where did I specify that? Into the abilities section of my character. Class default. There we go. So I specify the potion ability as well to my gameplay ability called Regen Potion. So I don't need to, manually set that again. But inside of the code, by doing so inside of the code, what this would be doing is it's going to be triggered regardless if I have potion or not. So I had to manipulate my C++ class to only trigger if I have a valid effect. So basically what it's doing is grabbing the effect, and if there is a valid effect, it's going to trigger and apply the effect to the owner. And if there isn't, it's not going to do anything basically. So inside of my gameplay ability, what I did was I create, inside of this activate ability section, it's loading the whole thing, but inside of the activate ability, before doing so, I check if it was a potion. If it was an ability of the type potion, what I was about to do is I was trying to look inside of my inventory and see if there is a potion of that specific type that I could use. And if I don't have it, then it's not going to do anything. But if I have it, and that is also activated, which means it's equipped, and also I have more than one, like at least one, at least more than zero in that sense, then I would trigger my effect, which is basically just setting the potion. If I decreasing that is minus than zero, I would just set that section of the inventory to be empty because I don't have any potions left. But if -1 is not 0, then I would just set that to whatever. If I have like, I don't know, 10 potions, I would set that to 9 potion and still active. And then I would play the montage, which is basically doing whatever any other feature was doing inside of the game. And if I didn't found anything, then I would just end the ability without doing anything. So, and that only if this is a potion. But if it's not a potion, then I would trigger whatever the montage is. So that way I prevent to triggering that animation montage or triggering that event, that gameplay ability, if I don't have enough potions or enough actors of potions inside of my inventory. Okay, so and here basically what I did. Oh, I actually don't need that because I don't actually ever use this one. So screw it. I also did the same as on the previous abilities. Whenever I end the ability, I end my task. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Also, I wait for the event tag called Regeneration, so that's only going to be triggered and it's only going to apply the effect whenever I receive the health.regeneration tag. That's only given for the effect once I go to the notify. So if I go back again to my potion has this name notify because I don't want them to start already gaining health by the beginning of the montage. I want them to only gain health when he gets around here into the montage. So I have this BBAN regeneration, which is basically just a blueprint. Just go back. It's just an NN notify blueprint. You can just do that by just blueprint class. You can search for NM notify, and that's the one. So basically on the ending notify, what I did basically is I override the function receive notify and I get the owner, I make a gameplay event data. This is not as, doesn't need to be like have tags or anything here. But basically I just set the instigator and the target to be the same because since I am triggering the effect and I want the effect to be applied to me, then I am both the instigator and the target of that effect. And I set that to payload and I send that health generation tag whenever that a name and then notify is actually triggered, and then I finish. That's the only thing it's doing. But it's so important that if that node is not here, basically this would never be triggered because I would never receive the health regeneration effect, regeneration tag. So this effect would never be applied. Okay, so that's basically how I triggered the whole gameplay ability system. So I created from bottom to top instead of top to bottom. So what I need the effect for the health. So I create the particle. I need also something to trigger that effect. So I create the gameplay queue, which is basically the thing to display things into the user, like give feedback, particles, and etc. Inside of the gameplay ability system of the Unreal Engine. Okay, now I need something to trigger that queue, which is usually an effect. And I make sure to match exactly those tags between both effects and the gameplay queue under the display section of the effect. Nice. And then I specify my effect, which is basically what this is actually gonna do to whenever like anyone that's gonna receive that effect, what's gonna do to the person or to the player that's gonna receive the effect. It could be an enemy, it could be yourself, it could be like a damage or something. In that sense, it's just regeneration effect. So I was adding during 4 seconds 5 of health during 4 seconds. So 5, 10, 15, 12 at the end of it. And now that I have the effect set it up, I need to create the actual ability that's going to trigger that effect that is going to trigger the gameplay queue. So I create the ability called Potion, and inside of the potion I specify both montages and etc. inside of it, and I wait for the tag health regeneration, which I specify inside of my montage. If I don't want that to be that way, I could just not wait any tag, and whenever that's triggered, I would just apply the effect directly, but that would be applied at the beginning of the montage, which is not what I wanted, right? So that's pretty straightforward. And if you want to look at the gameplay ability classes or how I specify the whole, the whole thing at the beginning, it's gonna be up to the. It's gonna have like a link in the description below for you to follow how to specify or create the whole gameplay ability system and apply to your project. So, yep, that's how I did the whole thing. Hope you like it.